about just macro in general. Where do you think we are in the cycle? Obviously, today, a lot of fear on the timeline. Markets aren't doing well. So again, just where do you think we are? Are we still in a bull cycle? Are we near the end?
I absolutely still believe we're in a bull cycle. Obviously, the bull cycle has been a lot more concentrated in Bitcoin versus a lot of the other altcoin sphere. And at the end of the day, right now, we are experiencing a lull in liquidity fiat money generation. In the United States, obviously, I believe that Trump investors are consciously trying to cause a recession, or at least the appearance of a recession, so that the Federal Reserve becomes on their side and lowers the price of money and increases the quantity of money. And also, if you think about it, right, regardless of whether you think, the political side of things, if there's a lot of fraudulent payments within the system and you want to get rid of those before you move higher, you can clean up the dead weight. And obviously, that's going to have an economic impact. They're okay with it because they're doing it in the beginning of their administration versus, in 2026 before the elections. Oh no, let's go reform the entire government. The voting population is going to be very skeptical of that and say, oh, that's Trump's fault, that's Veson's fault, that's Elon's fault, versus there's probably a way that they can spin this as this is Biden's fault, this is the Democrats' fault. Again, whether or not you believe that doesn't really matter, but the markets, they're cleaning out the dead wood, and then they're going to reflate and they're going to print more money than probably anyone's ever printed before. You move over to the EU, right? I don't know if the Greens are going to come on side with the ruling parties in Germany to do this, constitutional fuckery to allow them to print as much money as possible to build weapons and rebuild their army. But if they don't do it this way, they'll do it another way. The sentiment is there. Europe wants to rearm, ostensibly to fight Russia, but they just want to spend more money at the end of the day. And so if it doesn't happen now, it'll happen later. They want to reflate. It might not happen in the next week to save your leveraged long position in whatever you own, but that's coming at least within the next 2 to 3 years. China is just waiting. They're going to have some sort of agreement with the US and the rest of the world on how they want to reshape the global economy. Could be good, it could be bad. I don't know what it is. But once that agreement, or, fuck you, we're just going to go our separate ways, whatever that is, they're going to reflate as well. So they're waiting in the sidelines. And then you have Japan, where the BOJ is trying to raise rates. We'll see if they get there or not. But at the end of the day, they're not trying to add more liquidity into the system. So you have the four major blocks, either trying a bit of austerity to clean up the dead wood, or in the process of reflating their economies. And we're in this period where we expected all this, policy goodness, and Trump's going to do this and do that. And you might end up doing these things, but at the end of the day, it was liquidity negative. And so now we're seeing the markets finally react to that.
Prominent figures like Arthur Hayes, the revered CIO of Maelstrom and co-founder of Bitmex, have stirred the pot with his Bitcoin forecast once again. Hayes is more bullish than ever now, and he has reasons after believing the crypto market will suffer in early 2025. Brace yourself as we delve into the intriguing narrative that could reshape the landscape of investments and crypto as a whole. Welcome back to Investocracy Crypto.
I think in the third, fourth quarter of this year, through 2028, we're going to have a massive money printing situation, right? America first, my nation first is inflationary. I need to rebuild every single part of my supply chain within my country to give jobs to people because they're losing them to robotics and AI, and to have resiliency in my defense space. That's massively inflationary. There's not enough private capital to fund it. They're going to print the money. And then you have essentially a declining population and this sort of robotics AI thing. How that plays out, I don't know, but politicians need votes. And so they're going to print money to make sure that people feel okay. Well, the economic system, and maybe whatever humanity is in and of itself, changes as well. Again, massively amounts of money printed. And then you have to service all the debt that they took off from COVID into the present. The US pretty much doubled the debt in existence, and every other country printed money as well. So again, this is a short-term pain. We're clearing out the dead wood. We had a great run from 20,000 to 110 on Bitcoin, essentially, FTX lows until, Trump coin. And now we're having a 30% correction. It's pretty normal for a bull market. So I think, yes, people might have had a little bit too much leverage. Maybe they bought too many shit coins, but I think we're going to clear out all that dead wood. And I still believe that we could be 250,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. Does that mean that the particular shitcoin you own is going to be 100x higher? I probably not, because people are getting a little bit more discerning in the type of things that they own. But at least from Bitcoin perspective and the global, overall market capitalization of crypto, I think we're going to be much higher by the end of the year than we are today.
Great. Yeah. So, let me guess the first signs that you would be looking for. Would the first signs of this be actual money printing, if the U.S. government starts to do QE again,
I
starts to
think first
buy?
what's going to happen is, let's say we go to 70,000 or whatever it is. We need to see S&P at like below 4,000. 20,
Wow.
30% correction in the NASDAQ, something like that. Because at the end of the day, the US government needs the stock market to go up to make their finances. That's what the game is about. And so we're not going to see anyone fail or any financial stress until that shakes out. And there's going to probably be some bond market things and some currency things. Something's going to happen. I don't know where it's going to happen. We didn't. Could you have predicted that Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank and they were going to go bust within 2 weeks of each other? Probably not. Wasn't what you were thinking was going to be the cause of the bank term funding program and $4 trillion of spending that pumped Bitcoin up 5x from that point. I don't know what the thing is going to be, but I tell you what, S&P down 30%. The 10-year could go to 2% or it could go to 5%. Which one of those moves, somebody's going fucking bankrupt.
Arthur Hayes stands firm in his prediction that Bitcoin could soar to $250,000 by the end of 2025. Hayes, known for his acute analysis of macro conditions, offers a lens through which we can glimpse the future of crypto markets. With a track record of foreseeing major market movements, his words carry weight in an arena where every decision counts.
And then, I think Bitcoin is going to bottom before equities. And then if equities are really stressing or the bond market's stressing, Bitcoin is going to start outperforming, because it's going to say, okay, now we know the response. When there's financial distress, they always print money. It doesn't matter what the political leanings, left, right, center, print money. This is the system that we're in. We need the stress. We know what the response is. Survive the stress, profit from the response. And so that's our goal as crypto investors.
So it sounds like the signs will be very overt, and it almost sounds like you're suggesting that there's a high likelihood of a V-shape recovery, like it'll go down and then the response will come out.
I mean, it's not looking to go. We're going to go to 70,000. All of a sudden, there's a Sunday night emergency Fed meeting, and they're back at 110 on Monday. No, you're going to know. When the bank term funding program happened on a Sunday night, and Treasury and Secretary Yellen came out and said, "Okay, we're creating this new program."
Right.
Bitcoin rallied at 2 or 3%, but it went up 5x over the next year and a bit.
Okay.
So you have time. There's no reason to try to catch a knife. Okay, I didn't get the super liquidation wick on my particular crypto asset of choice. Don't try to hit that. Wait for them to tell you when it's time to buy. And they'll tell you exactly when it's time to buy. You might miss out on the first 10% or 15%, but you'll get the next 5x without losing 50% of your stack trying to figure out when they're going to start printing the money. They're going to tell you when to print the money, and then you know what to do.
As we navigate through the data and statements that underpin Hayes' forecasts, a picture begins to emerge, one of potential opportunities and calculated risks. The intricate dance between market forces and investor sentiment unfolds before our eyes, and now, Bitcoin looks more appealing than ever. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
So again, I think and this is probably heretical to a lot of Bitcoin people, especially those in America, if the Democrats had won the election, yes, they probably would have kept shitting on crypto companies, and that's obviously not good for a lot of people in the United States. However, they would continue printing a lot more money faster than what Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing. Not that I don't think we're going to end up in the same place, but if you take what the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk, and mimetic Doge Department advisory thing is doing, looking at all the ridiculous things that government agencies are spending, there's obviously a large amount of fraud embedded in sort of the spending patterns of the U.S. government, and that was sort of turbocharged after the COVID debacle. And you can see that the Democrats, at least in the United States, had no intention of reining that back. If anything, they were going to go even harder at spending more and more money, printing money. And you had the Treasury doing it, and you had the Federal Reserve enabling it as well. And so I believe this is in August, and at that point, it was about a 50-50, at least in my mind, a coin toss as to who would win the election. But the Democrats being the party in power, they could use the relevant government agencies to try to inject more liquidity, pump the markets, and get people feeling good on election days, and they would go and vote for the candidate Kamala Harris. Or I don't know if Joe Biden was still in the race at that point. But in any event, I think we've obviously had sort of the Trump pump, and then the realization that the money is not going to be forthcoming as quickly as it would have been if it had been a Democrat in power, because not only would they have the Treasury under their control, they would also have the Federal Reserve, because Jerome Powell and some of the Fed governors have been very vocal about their distaste for Donald Trump. And now all of a sudden, Jerome Powell has found his hawkish inflation fighting credentials when he was cutting rates in September of 2024 right before the election, when the U.S. economy was doing just fine and inflation was bottoming, if not re-accelerating. So I think it's a very curious stance that the federal chairman has now all of a sudden because Donald Trump is in office.
As we reflect on the insights shared by Arthur Hayes and the intriguing future he paints, one question lingers in the air. Are you ready to seize the moment? With forecasts pointing towards a bullish trajectory for Bitcoin and the broader market, now might be the opportune moment to consider your next move. But what do you think? Share your thoughts. And finally, if you would like to know more about cryptocurrencies or specifically Bitcoin, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.